There are few stories that expose America's growing confusion over modern substances, legal loopholes, addiction fears, and criminal justice contradictions, quite like the unfolding controversy surrounding Kratom, the state of Mississippi, and the arrest of former Arkansas State Senator Brandon Clarke. On the surface, this may sound like another regional legal story buried somewhere in the southern United States. But once you begin pulling back the layers, the situation becomes far more complicated, far more political, and far more emotionally charged than many Americans realize. Because right now, across the United States, millions of people are asking the exact same question. What exactly is Kratom? Is it a dangerous drug? A legal herbal supplement? A pain management alternative? Or is it something sitting in a legal gray area that lawmakers still don't fully understand? And that question exploded into national attention after reports emerged that Brandon Clarke, a former Arkansas lawmaker once trusted with public office, was facing drug-related charges tied to Kratom products. Suddenly, what many people previously viewed as a niche herbal substance became the center of a larger debate involving law enforcement, public safety, addiction, politics, personal responsibility, and the rapidly expanding supplement industry in America. At the same time, confusion intensified in neighboring Mississippi, where residents began searching online in massive numbers, trying to determine whether Kratom was even legal there in the first place. Some counties ban it. Some stores sell it openly. Some people swear it helped save their lives from opioid addiction. Others say it destroyed families and communities. And in the middle of all of it are ordinary Americans trying to understand the truth. Tonight, we are taking a deep investigative look into the controversy surrounding Kratom legality in Mississippi, the charges involving Brandon Clarke in Arkansas, and the much larger national battle over regulation, addiction, public health, and political accountability. Because this story is not only about one man facing charges. It is about a country struggling to decide where the line exists between medicine, supplements, freedom, and danger. And by the end of this investigation, one thing becomes painfully clear: America still has not decided what Kratom truly is. To understand why this story has generated such intense attention across the South and beyond, viewers first need to understand what Kratom actually is and why it has become one of the most controversial substances in modern America. Kratom is a plant derived from the leaves of a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia, particularly countries like Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia. For generations, laborers in those regions reportedly chewed kratom leaves or brewed them into tea because of their stimulant-like effects in small doses and sedative or pain-relieving effects in larger amounts. But in recent years, kratom has exploded into the American market, becoming widely available in smoke shops, gas stations, online supplement stores, and wellness retailers. Supporters of kratom argue that it offers pain relief, helps reduce opioid dependency, eases anxiety, and provides an alternative for individuals battling addiction. Many users describe it as life-changing. Online testimonials from Americans across the country frequently claim kratom helped them stop using prescription painkillers or heroin. In an era where the United States continues facing a devastating opioid epidemic, those claims gained enormous traction. But critics paint a much darker picture. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has repeatedly warned consumers about kratom, arguing that it carries risks of dependency, abuse, contamination, and potentially serious side effects. Federal health officials have expressed concerns about products being sold without oversight, dosage standards, or proper testing. Some studies and reports have linked kratom to overdose deaths, although researchers continue debating whether kratom alone was responsible in many of those cases or whether other substances were involved. And that uncertainty created the perfect storm for legal confusion across America. Unlike substances that are clearly classified at the federal level, kratom exists in a complicated legal landscape. Federally, kratom is not classified as a controlled substance in the same way as heroin or cocaine. However, several states and municipalities have banned it entirely, while others regulate it under consumer protection laws. In some places, kratom is openly sold next to energy supplements and CBD products. In other areas, possession can potentially lead to criminal penalties. Mississippi became one of the states caught in that legal maze. As of recent reporting, Kratom remains legal in Mississippi at the state level, but local regulations vary significantly. Some counties and municipalities within Mississippi enacted bans or restrictions, creating widespread confusion among consumers and retailers alike. That means a product purchased legally in one part of the state could potentially become problematic in another jurisdiction. For everyday residents, the lack of consistency has been deeply frustrating. Store owners say they struggle to keep up with changing local ordinances. Consumers report uncertainty about whether they are violating laws simply by carrying products across county lines. And law enforcement agencies themselves often face challenges interpreting rapidly evolving regulations. That confusion only intensified after the name Brandon Clarke entered the conversation. Brandon Clarke was not just another anonymous figure. He was a former Arkansas legislator who once held public trust and political influence. Reports surrounding his legal troubles immediately attracted attention because they combined politics, criminal allegations, and the controversial kratom industry into one explosive story. But legal experts quickly pointed out a crucial distinction. Not all kratom products are treated equally under the law. This is where the story becomes significantly more complicated. Natural kratom leaf products may fall under one legal category, while altered products containing concentrated extracts or synthetic compounds may potentially violate different state laws. Some prosecutors and regulators argue that enhanced kratom products can become chemically dangerous or mimic illegal narcotics. Industry advocates strongly dispute many of those claims and argue regulators are unfairly targeting products without scientific consensus. For viewers trying to follow the story from home, the legal language became almost impossible to navigate. Was Clarke accused because kratom itself is illegal? Or because authorities believed certain products exceeded legal limits? Were the allegations tied to synthetic ingredients? Were the charges political? Were they connected to broader investigations into unregulated supplements? The public wanted answers. And in America's modern digital landscape, once confusion meets controversy, social media turns the situation into a national firestorm. The controversy surrounding Brandon Clarke escalated rapidly once Arkansas authorities publicly confirmed charges connected to alleged drug-related activity involving kratom products. Local media coverage quickly spread beyond state borders because the story touched several emotionally charged national issues all at once: drug regulation, political accountability, public health fears, and the expanding gray market supplement economy. According to regional reports, investigators alleged Clarke was connected to products authorities believed violated Arkansas controlled substance laws. Officials reportedly conducted searches and examined substances marketed under kratom-related branding. The legal debate centered not only on kratom itself, but also on questions involving chemical composition, product enhancement, and whether certain materials contained compounds prohibited under Arkansas law. That distinction became critically important. Many Americans immediately searched online asking a simple question: if kratom is legal, how can someone face drug charges involving kratom? Legal analysts explained that the answer often depends on exactly what was inside the products involved. In many states, plain kratom leaf powder remains technically legal. But concentrated extracts, synthetic analogs, or products mixed with other compounds may fall into entirely different legal categories. Prosecutors in some jurisdictions argue manufacturers sometimes market altered substances under the broad label of kratom, even when chemical formulations differ substantially from raw plant material. Defense advocates, meanwhile, frequently challenge those claims and argue authorities overreach when interpreting supplement laws. The Brandon Clarke case became a perfect example of that legal collision. As headlines spread online, many viewers initially assumed Clarke had been arrested simply for possessing kratom. But legal reporting suggested the case was far more nuanced, involving specific products and allegations tied to state drug enforcement statutes. That distinction mattered enormously because public understanding of kratom legality remains incredibly fragmented. At the same time, the story triggered renewed scrutiny of Mississippi's own laws. Search trends reportedly surged as Mississippi residents tried to determine whether kratom remained legal inside their own communities. Some consumers worried they could unknowingly violate local restrictions. Others feared future statewide bans might emerge if public pressure intensified following the Arkansas case. Retailers also found themselves under pressure. Across parts of Mississippi and neighboring southern states, smoke shops and supplement stores openly sell kratom products in brightly colored packaging marketed for energy, relaxation, mood enhancement, or pain support. Industry advocates insist responsible adult consumers should retain access to legal herbal products. Critics argue the marketing sometimes resembles tactics historically associated with vaping products or loosely regulated supplements targeting vulnerable consumers. Parents, educators, addiction specialists, and medical professionals increasingly voiced concern over accessibility. Some doctors warned that Americans may falsely assume kratom products are automatically safe simply because they are sold openly in retail environments. Toxicologists noted that potency levels can vary dramatically between manufacturers. Researchers also warned that scientific data surrounding long-term use remains incomplete. Still, supporters pushed back hard against calls for aggressive bans. Many kratom users insist the plant helped them avoid far more dangerous opioids. Online forums contain thousands of personal testimonies from individuals who claim kratom improved their quality of life, reduced chronic pain, or supported recovery from addiction. Advocacy organizations have argued that criminalizing kratom could unintentionally drive people back toward prescription opioid abuse or illicit narcotics. That emotional divide fueled massive public reaction once Clarke's charges became national conversation material. Some Americans viewed the situation as evidence that unregulated supplement markets are spiraling out of control. Others believed authorities were unfairly targeting alternative substances, while pharmaceutical companies continue profiting from legal opioids. And because Clarke was a former politician, the scrutiny became even more intense. Critics questioned whether lawmakers who once shaped policy should face harsher accountability when implicated in controversial industries. Supporters cautioned against rushing to judgment before all facts emerged in court. Legal experts repeatedly reminded the public that charges do not equal convictions and that defendants remain presumed innocent unless proven guilty. And that confusion reflects a much larger national problem. America currently lacks a unified understanding of kratom itself. To truly understand why the Brandon Clarke case matters beyond Arkansas and Mississippi, it is necessary to examine the broader legal, scientific, and political battles surrounding kratom in America today. Legal experts say kratom occupies one of the most unstable regulatory positions in the country. Unlike federally approved medications, kratom products often enter the market through the supplement industry, which historically operates under looser oversight than prescription pharmaceuticals. That creates enormous variation in product quality, potency, labeling accuracy, and chemical consistency. Attorneys specializing in drug law explain that this inconsistency becomes especially dangerous when states apply different legal standards. In one jurisdiction, kratom may be treated similarly to herbal supplements. In another, specific extracts or compounds may trigger controlled substance concerns. Some prosecutors aggressively pursue cases involving enhanced products. Others focus only on clearly illegal narcotics. For consumers, that patchwork system creates uncertainty. For retailers, it creates legal risk. And for politicians, it creates political landmines. Public health officials also remain deeply divided. Some addiction specialists argue kratom carries legitimate dependency risks and warn consumers against assuming natural automatically means safe. Researchers have documented cases involving withdrawal symptoms, dependency concerns, and adverse health reactions. The FDA has repeatedly emphasized that kratom products are not approved for treating medical conditions and has raised alarms about contamination risks involving heavy metals or salmonella in certain imported products. Yet at the same time, some researchers argue kratom deserves more nuanced study rather than outright demonization. Several scientists have noted that kratom appears pharmacologically different from traditional opioids despite interacting with some opioid receptors in the brain. Some preliminary research suggests it may carry lower respiratory depression risk compared to powerful opioids, though experts caution far more clinical research is needed. This scientific uncertainty fuels political division. Conservative lawmakers focused on drug enforcement sometimes advocate strict crackdowns, arguing unregulated psychoactive substances threaten public safety. Libertarian voices often push back, framing kratom bans as government overreach interfering with personal freedom and alternative wellness choices. Some progressive criminal justice reform advocates argue criminalization could worsen incarceration problems without addressing addiction. And then there is the financial angle. The kratom industry in America has grown into a major commercial market, reportedly worth hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Retailers, distributors, advocacy groups, and importers all have strong economic incentives tied to the substance remaining legal. Critics argue profit motives sometimes outpace safety oversight. Industry representatives counter that regulation, not prohibition, is the better path forward. The Brandon Clarke controversy intersects with all of these tensions simultaneously, because Clarke was not merely a random individual caught in a local investigation. His political background elevated the symbolic weight of the allegations. Cases involving former lawmakers naturally attract heightened media attention because they raise broader questions about accountability, influence, and regulatory systems. Media analysts say stories like this perform explosively online because they combine multiple emotionally reactive subjects Americans already feel polarized about: drugs, politics, law enforcement, corporate interests, addiction, and government credibility. And in an election-driven media environment, every one of those subjects becomes amplified. Some commentators use the case to argue America needs stricter supplement regulation nationwide. Others framed it as another example of unclear laws trapping people in politically charged prosecutions. Still, others focused primarily on Clarke's political identity, turning the controversy into partisan ammunition. But beneath the political noise lies a deeper issue affecting ordinary Americans every single day. Millions of people are making decisions about substances they do not fully understand. Many consumers genuinely do not know whether products sold legally in stores are scientifically tested, medically reviewed, or legally protected across state lines. The assumption that retail availability equals safety or legality has become deeply embedded in consumer psychology. Experts warn that assumption can be dangerously misleading. As news involving Brandon Clarke and kratom spread online, social media platforms erupted into exactly the kind of emotionally divided digital battlefield that now defines modern American controversy. On one side were users expressing outrage and alarm. Many Americans argued the case proved kratom markets have become dangerously unregulated. Viral posts warned parents about products sold near schools or inside smoke shops. Some users shared stories of loved ones allegedly struggling with dependency or adverse reactions connected to kratom use. Others demanded lawmakers take immediate action to ban products entirely. The emotional intensity was impossible to ignore. Some posts portrayed kratom as the next opioid crisis. Others accused retailers of targeting vulnerable people with flashy packaging and misleading health claims. Concerned parents, recovery advocates, and public health activists flooded comment sections demanding stronger oversight. But an equally passionate counter-movement emerged almost immediately.